and welcome to the Higher Education Access Corner. I'm your host, Tiffanie Devan, and today we're going to continue our Career Spotlight segment where I sit down with new and seasoned professionals who share their insight and experience in their respective careers. So joining me today is Tai Roach-McClendon, operating room nurse at UPMC Community Osteopathic Hospital. Tai, welcome to the Higher Education Access Corner.
Thank you for having me, Tiffanie.
Absolutely. So just to get everyone a little acclimated to the way we're going to do this, as part of our Career Spotlight segment, each segment is going to have a different career where we'll have guests come on and they'll share their experiences, their journey, and anything else they want to share with everyone. Before we get started, I am going to read Tai's bio. Tai is a 2023 graduate of Penn State University, Altoona, where he earned his Bachelor of Science degree in nursing with a minor in human development and family studies. Believing that a career in the healthcare profession was a calling, he always knew that he wanted to do something that allows him to give back and help others. Tai worked hard his entire academic career to reach his career goals. He earned a 4.0 GPA his freshman year. Kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
Because of his academic excellence, he was inducted into the National Honor Society for Leadership and Success, the Alpha Lambda Delta Honor Society, and named to the Dean's List. Tai was very involved on campus at the in the Altoona community. He belonged to the Student Nurses Association of Pennsylvania, where he served on the board of directors as Community Service Chair, Penn State Blue and White Society, and Environmentalist in the Environmentalist Coalition. Because of his involvement, he was selected to represent his campus on a nursing program student panel and also to the Student Nurse Internship program with UPMC Pinnacle Hospitals. Upon graduation, Tai accepted a position as an operating room nurse at UPMC Community Osteopathic Hospital, and that's what leads us here.
Yeah.
All right, so that's an amazing bio, and we have more information to unpack, so hopefully as the discussion goes on, our listeners will hear even more about you and your amazing career, all right? All right, so just to get started, how old were you when you knew what you wanted to do, what profession you wanted to go into?
It was the summer I went to the PASS program, so I'd say maybe 16.
So 16?
16 years old, I'd say.
Okay.
As I was walking out, I saw a daughter and father. He was getting wheeled in, and he was wearing a mask, and he needed a bit of help, and I asked what was happening. He just wanted to visit his daughter while he was getting in, and he had cancer. And I just took that and really thought like how much he was in this worst place at the worst moment, but he still found the time to visit his daughter on her biggest day and try to help her out and be there for her. And I really took that in strides and wanted to help people like that for the rest of my life as a nurse.
That's the compassionate piece. And it's interesting, just personally, I always look at nurses. And I don't know why, but from the very first time I needed a nurse and I had to go to the hospital for something minor, and I was looking at the comparing and the compassion that they had. And I was like, wow, that's an amazing feat for someone to be able to do. I am not that person. I have the compassion, but I don't know if I have the stomach and the heart to continuously help someone. Sometimes you get good outcomes, sometimes you don't, but you still get up every single day to do it. So I appreciate you all for what you do, for the passion and compassion that you share, that you bring into your particular field. So now I know, and I'm going to say this because we know your mom, we know you love your mom here at FIA. So she's part of our FIA family, but she's also big with higher education, and she has her own platform with doing things. How much of your preparation for high school was influenced by just her basic day-to-day information that she can give to you in her career and then personally as a mom?
I say she was my biggest supporter.
Okay.
She was helping me with everything. She was making sure I was getting up for school, making sure I was on top of my grades, on top of my studying. She was pretty much everything. She was the main involvement with my education, and she was on top of it. And that helped me with my confidence in wanting to be better for myself and to try to strive for greater things. So I'd say she was 100% for
100%.
everything.
She's been 100% for us too.
Yeah.
When we had her here. So another question, and I don't know if you can remember going back. So prior to nursing, you know, when you're younger, everyone says, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? And you give an answer. Was it nursing way back then, or it didn't get really inspired until you met the man and his daughter?
I always was interested in the healthcare field. I wanted to be a doctor.
Okay.
But that's a lot of schooling, and I think that's more later down the road I'm interested in. It seems more possible now. Back then, I really thought, I was like, that's a lot to do. And I didn't really see the end of the road at that time, but now I kind of see I'm getting closer to that portion, and I'm thinking of maybe doing that. But yeah, it was always in the healthcare for me.
Okay. That's pretty good. It's amazing because when I talk to people, it's not always the case. They'll start out when they're younger, I want to go here, I want to go there. And then every now and again, I'll run into someone that says, nope, my passion was always either in healthcare or something like that. So it's nice that you kind of always knew where you wanted to go into. I don't know if that made your journey easier or not, but can you share a little bit about what that journey looked like from going from that high school schooler who needed to prepare for that beyond high school life, and then how you got there?
Well, it was hard because I was always kind of like a shy person and kind of not really too outgoing with my things. I kind of just did my thing and kept it going. But I was fortunate because for Penn State they had like a summer program where you could like kind of go in the campus and be there early, explore, do classes, meet people. So that kind of helped me kind of get comfortable with everything. And the campus was nice and small, so I was able to easily meet people, get connections, and kind of make my own little friend group to have push me along the way. That really helped me a lot.
Okay, so when we're talking about your high school journey, you knew that you wanted to, throughout your high school journey, you knew you wanted to go into the healthcare field. Did you have to work with counselors to know the right courses to take, or did they kind of just guide you along and it just made it a lot easier? Because you need more sciences, you need more maths than maybe someone who's going into a different field.
For high school, I did have counselors kind of further me for like the AP classes, like world history and AP Calc, I believe. We didn't really get offered like anything in that nature, like healthcare wise, in my high school. But when I went into the college courses, I did have other
like the advisors, maybe.
Yeah, advisors who like pointed me to the right classes that kind of made sense with what I was going for. They were big help with that, like when talking to them.
So now, you're sitting here with the Penn State Nittany Lions thing on. Shout out to Penn State, right? I didn't go to Penn State. However, I will say, one of our behind the scenes guys, he's a Penn State alum as well. So I said that in all fun because he's here, you're here. Tell us what our listeners, what made you choose Penn State? What was part of how did you actually narrow all of those choices down to make Penn State your choice? Well,
I had two other choices that I wanted to do beforehand. I was thinking of Baylor in Texas, which was too far from me.
Okay.
I couldn't imagine going to Baylor. I'm glad I went to Penn State, and Bloomsburg, which was also a decent campus. But I decided on Penn State because they had a really good alumni program, and I really liked what they had going on with the nursing program. How instead of like Penn State Altoona had like a 2+2, so for other majors you had 2 years on that campus and 2 years you had to go to UP. But thankfully for the nursing program, it was all 4 years in Altoona, which was exactly what I wanted. I was able to keep my connections and my friends, stay there. The campus was nice and small, and teachers were great. It was more like a one-to-one one we used to back in Steel High, where I come from, small and
that's what you were looking for. So for that person, whether they're in high school or someone who's looking to go to a school and to choose them, what advice would you give them on how to make the selection? What was key, or a couple top things? Was it location? Was it the size of the school? Was it the cost? What were the top factors for you? And you kind of actually already alluded to some of it, kind of like you like the more intimate setting that's there. But even prior to visiting the school, was there a checklist or any advice you could give to a student to say, hey, if you're trying to figure out the right school for an individual, a couple key things?
Well, the cost, definitely. Not too many people are fortunate enough to get scholarships, so the cost is definitely a big thing to think about. Size is, I'd say that's what I go off of if you want to really foster a good learning. UP is nice, but it's so big, and then you're kind of just like another number there, which is, I mean, some people thrive in that, but I thrive in a more, when you get to know people better, you can have more of that connection with them.
Right.
So I think size is a really good part of that. Maybe what they have available for clubs, because again, like those connections, networking, that's important, like finding your way, what you were interested in. Yeah.
I think those are good. Yeah, those are all key things. And so what we do just as Access Partners, like we talk about like college and career planning and things like that. So it's nice when I talk to folks who are in their career and they're talking about their schools, like what factors did they choose? Because everyone's experience is going to be different, and not everybody's looking for the same thing. You may get some who are thriving at a huge campus. And you mentioned UP, so for our listeners, that means University Park, so the main campus at Penn State, but some of them thrive to want to go to University Park, and then when they realize what it's really like and they get there, that's not the expectation, and it's a little overwhelming for them. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, and they can still get a more intimate, you know, one-on-one, you know, or the ratio is closer between like professor and student at some of the smaller campuses, and it's cheaper there. Nothing against University Park and its cost though, but it's more, it can be more affordable if that's, you know, a different option for someone. How much of did like maybe the activities and things like that play a part with you? Because as a nursing student, I'm thinking that's a pretty grueling schedule. Yes. So I don't know if that was a major factor for you and that you had an opportunity to do a lot of different activities and clubs.
Yeah. When I first started out, it was a bit easier to kind of get into the clubs and stuff. Like we do community aid. We'd go to like Arc of Blair County, which is like a special needs place, and we like do activities with them, like have like a Halloween night and like a party night, and we'd assist in that direction. Oh my goodness, they do so much activities on the campus. They'd have like sexual education on the campus. So at the beginning, it was easy to find the time before I really stepped into the nursing program. So my freshman, sophomore year-ish, it was kind of easy. But near the end of it, when we had to do clinicals and exams every other week, and I tried to find the time to really step into the club, which we'd have to, and like really help the community.
Pretty good. And I mention those things because I like to, when we're talking about school, I like for students to know that there's a well-rounded experience that you can get if time permits. You know, you're going there for your classrooms, you're there to get your degree or your certificate, but you can still take part in those activities and things like that. And I think it kind of helps to make students more well-rounded. So here's some other questions that I have where we're going to kind of tie right into the nursing piece. What's a day in a life like as a nurse?
Day in the life like a nurse. So I get up at 7, or I get up at 6, go to work. I don't have any scrubs. I have to change in when I get there because it's a sterile environment. I check what patients we have for the surgeries on the day. I get back and prepare like all the meds. I get the room ready. I talk to the surgeon. I talk to the scrub, which is like when they hand the instruments, that's the scrub. They get the whole sterile field ready. I go and get the patient, and we do the surgery, and we do that again and again until. So
you're right there in the operating room, for the whole. That's surgery. Your whole thing.
Yep, that's what a circulator does. We just make sure everything goes to plan, everything is nice, the patient's safe. That's top priority, and yeah.
What do you think best prepared you to take on that role? Like from your own personal experience, from talking to other folks, from the education learned. What do you think so that when day one walked in, you're kind of like, okay, I got this, I'm ready, let's do it.
I think I'm very detail-oriented. Okay. So when it comes to the operating room field, I do both the circulating and scrub role. When it comes to circulating, it's like everything should really be perfect for when the patient comes in to when they come out. When they go to the PACU, to the recovery room, that all plays a part in like details and having everything right there and then and having that. And with a scrub, knowing the instruments you need, knowing surgeon preferences, what they like.
That's important. I didn't think about that. Yeah, that's
because there's different surgeons and they have like different things
styles
at different times of the surgery. So it's just really kind of something within me, just having detail-oriented, being ready at the time.
Okay. And so for that student who wants to go into nursing, and you mentioned one of them, hard skills, soft skills. You mentioned detailed-oriented. Any other things? Would you think they have to be personable? Do you have to be outgoing? Do you not have to be outgoing? Like, what are some other skill sets you think that someone should make sure that they consider before jumping into this field?
So in my regard, in the operating room, we really have to deal with our coworkers instead of the patients because we only talk with the patient for 5 minutes. But definitely, you don't have to be personable, but you should definitely have some type of decorum because when things get stressful in that situation, it's nice to be the one to have the calming, everything will be okay. So definitely personable is a good trait to have as a nurse.
Okay.
Detail-oriented, organized, compassionate, that because there are more than enough times where patients are anxious before going back, and if you just take a second to just sit there and talk with them, it changes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those three things are kind of a big thing to do.
I think that's the beauty of having a good nurse. Mm-hmm. You find the compassion there. And I can only speak from being the patient or being the family member of a patient when I see nurses come in, but that kind of sets the tone for the anxiety, or if you're not going to be anxious or any of those particular things. Another thing, when it comes to like choosing, let's say you're the student, you want to go to a specific, and I don't know if you can necessarily answer this part, but whether you want to be an LPN, an RN, is there a, hey, this is the right path based off of what type of nurse you want to be, or what's the way in which you all choose?
Yeah.
I'm going to go this school for this, or...
So a lot of people I see do, and like they become patient care technicians.
Mm-hmm.
So they pretty much do clean patients, do vitals. They're on like the really ground level of everything. Like,
mm-hmm.
They run a lot of stuff. So usually a lot of people do that to see what they like to do. So they see like the nursing. They see a whole lot. So that's what I felt. Like I felt by being a PCT, I was on like the floor with the nurses, and I found out what I didn't like to do. I didn't
mm-hmm.
like to be a floor nurse.
Okay.
Which is okay. So I'd say try a lot of different things. Try to see as many of the hospital as possible. Try to really get in the areas that are niche, because
mm-hmm.
there are different avenues to take as a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
Community health, home health. There's just so much. OR nursing like me.
Mm-hmm.
Psychiatric. There's just a lot. So I say like research what you might find interesting. Look into it. Watch videos. There's a lot of people who are nurses who do podcasts and talk about their experiences to gain insight. So I say all those are good ways.
Keep all options on the table,
mm-hmm.
and really do your research. That's what I hear. Do your research. And then you did an internship too, right? At UPMC?
Yes, yeah.
So what was that like? So it's probably a mandatory thing. It's probably a requirement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
For you all to do it. So what was the experience like as an intern, and were you nervous going into it?
I was very nervous because it was the 5th floor, and that was the oncology/urology floor,
mm-hmm.
which was, it was good that I did that, because it was very eye-opening to like cancer patients. I worked nights, so I really was like there at night, like, because there were patients who were paying 24/7, and the day nurses definitely had a hard job, but it was hard at night because we don't really have that support that you get during the day. Like, we had doctors on call, but we really were our own nurses. We only had each other to support each other. But it was really eye-opening in seeing like all types of patient populations, all types of pain levels, all types of diagnoses. So yeah, it was good that I did that, even if it was mandatory.
And if it weren't, that was the second part to this. So if it weren't mandatory, do you think for a student who has an opportunity to do an internship,
mm-hmm.
it's worth it? And if so, why?
Oh my goodness, yes. Because it will definitely help you with not only studies, because it starts to really kind of tie in together once you get to the higher levels. Like, you see like the patients, and you see what they're presenting with,
mm-hmm.
manifestations. You get your own clinical experience. It was I think a 6-week stint of that, so you can like really see and like tie into your own clinical
mm-hmm. Experiences, or
to better help you and help really your skills.
Okay. And I've always thought that it would be a good idea. I never did that. As I never did an actual internship, and mm-hmm. sometimes I look back and say, I wonder how things would have changed had I done an internship. Don't know, but we're talking about decades and decades ago, so it probably doesn't matter, right? Do you feel like you made the best choice by choosing to be an OR nurse, fresh out of college, as your first experience?
I was hearing back then they wouldn't really let fresh grads go into the operating room because they need experience. But now it's kind of more open because they need more help, how things are changing. But going into it, it was kind of hard to like learn everything new, because in nursing school they didn't teach me anything about operating room, because you have to learn all the new instruments, all the surgeries, and so that was
a challenge.
That was definitely challenging, but we had like a great program to train us. We had like 6 or 7 months orientation, so they definitely readied us. But I think I made the right choice going into the operating room straight out of college. I think it's nice.
And I'm thinking everything is thrown at you, so it's almost like you're just thrown into the fire, but it's probably one of the best, I would think. I'm, again, just the person on the outside. One of the best experiences because you're faced with so many different things coming your way, so you have to learn to react.
Yeah.
Still keep your calm, get the job done type of a thing. So that's what made me think of that, because like in OR, like you're not going slow, you're not going, and even though you still have to make sure you're doing everything that you're supposed to do if it's not outside of the OR, but pressure. Now the question, without giving specifics or anything like that, of course, just for patient confidentiality, what was one of the most alarming experiences that you've had? You can't always have a good outcome. So if you were faced with an unfavorable outcome, like what was something that was the most alarming thing for you, and how did you respond? Whether it's someone passed away, someone had a, unfortunate accident and it changed the scope of this. What is, we dropped all the instruments and everything just got delayed, or, people got upset and anxious and we weren't able to calm them. So what was something for you that was alarming when you went into the OR?
So this was during a bowel resection surgery. We had a patient coming from the ICU. They were vented, and we were just trying to go into their bowel as to see what's going on. And when we opened the bowel, we saw that it was just all cancerous, it was all necrotic. There was nothing we could really do for the patient, so we had to close them up and take them to the ICU. And it was really more of a sad time because it's nothing you can do for that kind of case. So what we had to do was kind of prepare the family and talk to the family about everything and letting them know what was going on and what the outcome is, and possible treatments we can do or possible ways we can make them more comfortable. So that was kind of a turnaround, because we weren't really, for surgeries we weren't really expecting to see that. We thought it was just going to be another normal day.
And yet those things do happen. So as a nurse who's new to something like that, and this really works for any field, sometimes things happen well beyond your control. How do you rebound so that you can now go into the next operating room fully charged to take care of the next one? How do you process that? Or how does anyone process that? Do they train you for that, or is that just something you have to learn with experience?
I think it's definitely both. They definitely train us to try to find coping mechanisms, to take a deep breath, breathe out, leave that behind, and come back to it another time, because there's more patients that need help. That patient's very important, and it's okay to feel the feelings you're having, but there's more patients that need to be helped that are emergent, and you need to just really kind of keep pushing it on and kind of go back to those feelings that we have support people to talk to whenever we need them, and to go to them if you need a second. We always have people to come in to do the surgeries for you if you need that time.
That's good to know, and that's one of the reasons why I always commend those in your profession. Whether we're talking healthcare, whether we're talking law enforcement, whether we're talking first responders, because you're constantly dealing with something every single day, and it's kind of but you got to keep going, and you can't let what's happened here stop you. And I always wonder if that person who's in that field, did you think about these things prior to going into that profession and know, hey, I'm equipped with this and I can do it, and that's part of my personality? Or it's kind of hey, I wasn't, but I'll be trained to do it. Is that a natural thing for you? Or
I think that's the latter, yeah. I really wasn't expecting it to be, there's always some level of stress, but not to the point where in the operating room where I expected it all. But I think it's more an innate thing for some people. It's learned for others, but for me it's an innate thing where it's kind of I just have to keep pushing on.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go. So all right, now we're going to flip it to something good. What's the best part about being a nurse? In your day-to-day, since you've been a nurse now for about a year, right?
Yeah.
So you made it to a year. Some of the most memorable, positive moments that you've had.
I love getting letters and notes from the patients we have, how much they're loving their new knees or their new shoulders, new hips. That's really heartwarming, how they had a good experience, how they say yada yada was such a great help. They helped me, my anxious thoughts. They were so nice and well taking care of me. And seeing those good outcomes of those patients, and seeing how much we affected them just from a 2-hour surgery,
Right.
how much that changed them for the better.
So that's always the icing on the cake, I think, too, because you see all the work, the sacrifice, you see how it's paying off and how those are benefiting from it. That's always a good part as well. What advice would you have for a student? Because you found your passion, it sounds like. For that student or that person, they don't have to necessarily still be in school, who's still trying to figure it out. What do they want to do to find, what do I need to do to find the passion to go into the next career? What advice would you have for them? For just trying to just simply choose a career, find their passion, or any of the above?
I think the best thing for me that really kept me going was like kind of networking and talking to people and like seeing what they like and seeing what drives them, because maybe that could be something that drives you. My friends, the people I met through my program definitely kept me pushing to go on and seeing like, end of the tunnel and everything. So I think the biggest one is definitely talking to people and like really socializing to see, maybe that won't work for you, but this will work for you because,
right.
2 brains are better than 1.
There you go. Most of the time, right? All right, Tai, what's next?
What's next?
Yeah, what's next for you?
In the near future, I'm planning to go for my master's as a nurse practitioner. I would really like to teach. I'm interested in teaching.
Okay.
I
Nice.
just don't know. We'll see, but I'm definitely interested.
You haven't figured out where you're going to put that in there yet, but maybe teaching as well. Okay, so you'll be in. And I also saw where you said you might want to be a traveling nurse. What's a traveling nurse, and what's that like?
So traveling nurses, like, they go through an agency to like go to like more needing places. So let's say I go to Chicago or like other states, like there's national, like maybe go overseas, but I'll probably stay in the States if I would travel. So wherever they need me, I'd have to go, and I'd stay there for a certain number of times, or to the contract states for like 6 weeks or so, and help out there. I'd have to get used to that OR and learn everything. But usually you want to travel after 2 years or so like you're really cemented in your skills, because
you never know what's going to happen. And then, so is that sort of like, and I could be off base with it, so as a traveling nurse, what I see, I watch too many TV shows, right? But is it kind of like, hey, something happened, like there was a national emergency and there's like a shortage of folks, and they're like, hey, we need to get folks over here, we need some help. So you get a group of nurses or doctors and they agree to go to kind of help out for a set period of time, and then they move. Would that be considered, or could that be considered like a traveling nurse
definitely
too?
Within the contract.
Okay.
I think they stay for a little bit to help out, and they go to the next place and hop around. So.
Okay, definitely watch too much TV. That's my idea of nurse, of where I get my nursing education from what they do. Okay, sounds good. So what we have in store for you, UPMC operating room nurse is what we're doing right now. You're going back to get your master's degree.
Yep.
And then you're going to see where it takes you. If you want to be a teacher, if you're not, if you become a teacher, come on back to the podcast. We'll talk about you as a teacher, as a nurse, or whatever it is that you are doing. You're always welcome to come back. I appreciate everything that you did share, from starting with your journey to where you are right now. And I am so anxious and excited to see what God has in store for you for your next chapter. So thank you again for joining me here today at the Higher Education Access Corner. Before we part, is there anything else that you'd like to share that we've not talked about?
Just like to say for future nurses to keep really pushing on, and don't let the grades or professors or even other students to put you down, and to keep staying locked in, focused, and you got this.
All right, sounds good. Stay locked in, stay focused. Thanks for joining us today at the Higher Education Access Corner. Again, thanks to our special guest, Tai Roach-McClendon. And we'll see you all soon on the next edition.